Good morning. Today we get to introduce you to my friend, Nikki Daulphin. She's so adorable. I knew her when she was in college, so it's been a few years, right, Nikki?
Yes, just a few.
How many? Just a few. Yeah, we won't say how many. And we're
Yeah.
going to be talking about legacy and motherhood and mentorship. Uh, Nikki is a wife and a mother of six. Five of the six are boys. I tried to have boys, but I couldn't just keep having children just to have a boy or a redhead. She is passionate about faith and family and food, which I think is sort of a holy trinity of sorts. And welcome, Nikki. Please tell us a little bit about your family and where you're from.
So we are from the Bay Area in California. My husband and I met at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Yay.
Is our connection. And we, let's see, we've been married 23 years this summer,
Okay.
and we currently live in New Mexico.
Wow. New
Yeah.
Mexico. And how did you get there from California?
Yeah, so my husband was a math and physics teacher for about almost a decade up in like the Santa Cruz area for a Christian high school there. And through a lot of soul searching and kind of like figuring out what he wanted to do next, he went back to grad school, got his master's while he was teaching. And then through a lot of connections and a lot of prayer, he got the opportunity to get his PhD in mathematics and work for a national lab. And that's how we got here. So
For a national lab, or is it called National Lab?
a national lab. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's several in the US.
Oh, okay. And so all those are in New Mexico.
No, no, no. But there are a couple in New Mexico.
Yeah, I
And
think Nikki and I recently got um, reconnected because I was speaking at a church in New Mexico and she showed up, and that was so sweet to have you in the audience.
so fun to
So,
see you. It
thank
was
you.
really awesome.
As a mother of six, how do you keep a balanced life with God and family and work and ministry?
Yeah, okay, good question. Well, I think you start off in, having kids and you get used to that. And I think I recently saw a friend, actually, she's a mutual friend of ours. And her name is Jenny. And she was posting about reading with her baby in her lap. And I was like, yes, that's how you teach your kids like how to read God's word is by you reading with them like all over you, right? And I remember when I was in college, it was like I gotta have my quiet time. And that quickly transitioned in motherhood to be like, no, this is just everyone's time with me in my Bible. So that was like that for many years. And then
Wait, explain that a little bit. So, because some people say, oh, well, I don't have a strict quiet time, so I must not be a very good Christian. So, what do you mean by that?
I mean that it became like the air I breathed through the day. Like I would just have to get it as I could, but it was always like in mind of taking care of a lot of little people. So I had 5 kids in 7 years.
Oh, my.
So the first five kept me quite busy for a long time. And then my sixth was born about 4 years after the last one of the five. So I think I learned to just deal with the chaos and the constant like barrage of like, mom, I need this. And then, okay, I got to get back to like finish my chapter or whatever. It became a lot more about, can I just feed myself the word throughout the day, rather than it be a perfect Bible study or something like that. So that's that's kind of what especially in a lot of the younger years. Now that my kids are older and I say that, they left me during the day, so now I get to have a full-time job and be a realtor. With them still of course, my main focus because I make my own schedule. Um, for me, it's waking up early and I have a Bible, it's called the Bible Reading Challenge. Christchurch in Idaho puts it out. It's just a system that I follow and I'm really legalistic and I like to like check my boxes.
Yeah.
And so I love it because if I miss a day, they encourage you to just go to the next day. And I do that, even though it goes against all my legalistic, like I have to catch up. So but I've read it through like five years now, maybe. So
Oh,
it's like, okay, I'm going to read it again next year. Just,
and maybe you'll skip different days. So eventually you'll have the
yeah,
Bible in your
it's like,
brain.
yeah. And it's just reading through the Bible and it's an encouragement for busy anyone
Yeah.
to just read God's word. Like
Maybe
just
you can send me that link and I can put it in show notes too for someone else who wants to
yeah,
do it that
it's
way.
great.
I
Yep.
remember Annadale White, who's now in glory, used to say,
Oh,
you need to read the Bible from the very beginning to the very end. I go, really? I really have to do it that way. But I think people are afraid of legalism, which they should be if you're worshiping the habit. But I like to say that habits help us worship. We don't worship the habit.
yes, for
The
sure.
fact that you're in the Word every day, like the same thing with the 1 year Bible. If I would miss a couple days, you might panic, but that's crazy. The Lord is just glad to meet with us. He's not only our Savior, He's our friend. Not to make Him over familiar, that can be a danger as well, where He's no longer holy, holy, holy. But the fact is, He gave His life His life to seek us out. So if we can RSVP at all during the day, I think it not only gives him pleasure and joy, and of course, it encourages our hearts. What advice can you give to young moms who might be struggling to keep the Lord first and foremost in the midst of daily chaos?
Yeah, it's just a matter of, I don't want to say do your best like in a wimpy way, but it's like you are going to get to God is going to take care of you if your heart is to be in his word and to be faithful that way, like that you want to be with the Lord. And some days you're going to be really tired because you're up with a baby all night and or sick kids and you're laying on the floor, as everyone's puking, right?
Right.
Many nights like that. I'm too old for that now, although sometimes it still happens to me. But those are the days we live in, and we are ministering to our families, and
Right.
God is ministering to us. And so we want a system often to be able to follow and fall back on, but to remember that he is with us in the day to day, and that's what sustains us over
I,
time.
I think not just as a mother of young children, but we can also say, well, I'm in grad school now, or I'm in college now, or I have a new job now. We always have a reason or excuse to put God on a shelf for now. And we'll say, well, he understands. Well, of course he understands. But he basically just wants us to want him. And
Hmm.
sometimes I don't. And so I have to go back to that prayer. Lord, help me want you so much that I don't put you on a shelf and that I'm thinking about you throughout the day. There's that beautiful Practice of the Presence of God, that classic book by Brother Lawrence. And he was a monk. He wasn't even a priest, he was a monk. So he was doing dishes and relating with the Lord. And I think that was a shock to some of his more high church buddies.
Yeah,
and
understood.
and yet God just wants us to know that He's with us in the dailies of our lives. Charles Swindoll said the trouble with life is that it's so daily. And if you're a mother of young children, you really feel that way. The dailiness, how can I lift my head above water? So I think you're giving a great encouragement just to hang in there.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd say about that is it's not like so then throw caution to the wind like we don't read the Bible. It's there's a ditch on either side. It's a daily practice, it's a discipline, but it's also a remembering that God meets us where we are. And some days it's the, hey, I have a few minutes and I'm in this psalm and it's really speaking to my heart and filling my heart and I can keep going. And,
Yeah.
that's me. And then other days we have more time. So I do have a little more dedicated time now that my kids are older. The only other thing I wanted to say too about the practice of it is we've never forced our kids to read their Bibles, but I've seen now I have two kids in college and I have a couple high schoolers now. This summer we'll have 5 teens for 3 days. And then my oldest will turn 20 and then we'll be back to four. But so we have older kids now. But the thing that I've noticed with them is that they do it because they see it. It's
Right.
the air that we breathe. And so that's why you want to remember not only are we doing this because we want to be with the Lord, but we also want to be practicing this to show our kids that it is what we need to survive the day.
Reminds me of my dear friend Bonnie Maston. She told me once that mother her mother's name was Madge. She's a quiet, older, godly woman, and she kept her bedroom door open, maybe on purpose. And Bonnie would look down the hall and see her mother on her knees by her bed, praying for Bonnie and her brother. She didn't go around saying, "Okay, I'm praying for you, kids," but she just did it where they could see it. And that's the kind of mother that Bonnie has become. She's a prayer warrior. She prays for my kids too, but
Mm.
she's the one who told me that kids learn what they live or something like that. There's a saying that I'm butchering, but they learn
Yep.
what they see. Okay. Did you ever feel like it was a grind to work so hard for your family, especially when the kids were little?
Um, I think that's a tendency in at least my generation of moms to like, everyone feels sorry for me. I'm tired all the time. But I think the more that I leaned into it, the more God showed me like how much freedom I had to really be a part of influencing my kids for good. And I look back on those years, I have zero regrets. I mean, I didn't work when my kids were small. I did do some things to help put us through grad school, my husband's grad school without debt. Um, and I worked hard on that. But really my main focus was my kids and they were my best investment. And I have zero regrets about those years. And I've had plenty of time now to build a career in real estate and have that be a great successful thing. And it's fun. And I feel like, wow, I get to do this now. It's really, really fun. But that was put aside for many years. And I did not, I'm not saying that in a weird way, like in a fake way. I'm saying it in a real way. I had to kind of lay it down. And I think having a lot of kids forced me to that maybe faster.
You
I
had to
don't
lay what down?
lay down just I laid down any expectation that I had, and I just kind of focused on our children and being present for them, learning the work of a wife, learning the work of a mom. It looks different for everyone. Some people, I was home with my kids when they were small. Husband was a teacher, so we lived on about $2 a week. So, anyways, but I was able to be creative and like learn how to cook. Like you can ask Debbie, our mutual friend. I didn't know how to make a single thing when I got married. It was pretty terrible. I grew up on Weight Watchers dinners.
Oh my.
Yeah. So I just got to learn how to make bread and like how to cook from scratch and like be really economical because we needed me to be. But there was a lot of freedom in that.
Right.
And I think the boundaries of saying, okay, Lord, this is what I'm doing. Living in these boundaries gave me so much freedom to just be creative and come into my own.
That's a great example. A lot of women are forced, I think, to feel less than because they're only a mom or they're only a housewife.
Mhm.
And and yet, because I got married later at 35, I had done my career.
Yeah.
And I thought, someone said, "Oh, don't you feel bad that you don't have your career anymore?" I go, "Are you kidding? I get to raise kids." And part of it was boring, so the Lord led me to be able to teach women's Bible story
Yeah.
study.
Yeah.
So that's how he developed my gifts. And it was just out of, we're all different. And
Yep.
some people have to work outside the home, and God gives them the strength to do that as well.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
now you look at your work, your real estate as your ministry. What does that look like? And can anyone use the same principles for their work?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Someone said that to me this year, and I just thought I've been in real estate
Said
about
what?
5 years.
Said what to you?
That she said real estate is your ministry.
Okay.
And another fellow believer, someone that goes to church with us, and actually they were clients of mine too. I helped them sell their family farm. And when she said that to me, something clicked in my mind, like, yes, you're right. Like that's exactly how I see it. Oh my gosh. But I never put it together like that. I think the reason why I see it as a ministry is because when someone is in the middle of a real estate deal, you think of like first-time home buyers or like, oh, we're getting this brand new, moving up in house. But that's a part of the time that I deal with those types of people. A lot of times I've sat with families where their mom is dying.
Mm.
Um, and walked them through, okay, these are going to be your next steps for title, for death certificate, like all these type things. Um, and again, I can't give legal advice, but I can say, hey, I know that you're going to need to go this direction. You need to connect with this attorney or whatever. I mean, you need to connect with an attorney, tax person, stuff like that. But I'm a trusted advisor in those moments. I have been with a mom when her kid was just got diagnosed with cancer at 13
Mm.
in the middle of them buying a house. And, she's calling me from the hospital crying, but we still want to buy this house. And, and trying to send Grubhub cards to her in the hospital. I mean, there's just all these different moments. And then real estate deals are very stressful. So people are transitioning. So I usually tell them, at some point you might want to, be cranky at someone and you might be cranky at me, and that's okay. And I usually give grace because I know that it's a hard time. So I think that that is part of how I minister to people is I try to care for them where they're at. I try to understand them. I try to really help them get where they need to go and with the least amount of worry as possible during a stressful time.
So these are all things that are transferable skills because they're really being the hands and feet of Jesus
Yeah.
in your particular skill set. And so, as much as God gives us the freedom to do this, my husband, as a medical doctor, once he was the doctor to a patient who was ready to die, and the wife was in the room, and he just said to the men, "You need to get your affairs in order and ready to meet your maker." Well, the wife was very angry because she didn't believe in God. And so
Mm,
then my husband got reprimanded and he wasn't allowed to bring that whole thing into the room, which is so sad because he was just trying to help this family out, right? So we have boundaries put on us by the world.
yeah.
On the other hand, there's so much we can do where we have the license to be creative
Yeah.
and showing the heart of God to somebody, even if it's just a homemade. I find that hot bread out of my bread maker, I don't go all the way without my maker. I keep using them because people don't use them and I find them in thrift stores for like 12 bucks. And so I have worn out several, but I find that a hot loaf of bread to someone who's grieving or who can't, you don't even know them that well, to go take it to their house is satisfying to them,
Yes.
shows the love of the Lord. You
Yes,
may want to add that
absolutely.
to your thing. Just kidding. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Or Grubhub. Now,
Yeah.
you say that fellowship around the table is what changed your life in college. Tell us that story.
Oh my gosh. So I got connected with Debbie, who is our mutual friend, how we know each other a little bit more than just church, because we were in the same church when I was in college in our early married years. Um, but I got connected with her because I think there was an announcement. I think Lori Potratz actually got up and announced on Mother's Day who would like a mentor. And
Wow.
so I called to the church because I had always kind of needed a mother figure in my life to help ground me kind of wherever I'd been up till that point. And I called in and she answered the phone because she was she was the women's ministry director.
Mhm.
And she said, "Oh, I'd love to mentor you. Why don't you come meet with me?" So I think I met with her a couple times in her office, and pretty quickly she could tell I was very hungry for just the safety of home and a mom figure. And so um, she just started inviting me to her house. And at this point, my husband and I had just started dating. And we were getting a little more serious. And so she just would say, "Hey, I'm making cookies for whatever. Why don't you come over?" Or, "Hey, I'm gonna, I don't know, go thrift shopping with so and so. Come over." And so I started to just be invited into her space. And I realized quickly that people live in peace
Oh,
and live like she was stable and she was kind and she would just let me hang out and watch her. And I'd always say, "Can I do something to help you, please?" And she'd say, "No, just sit and talk to me." So she would be doing her thing and she would talk to me. So she taught me how to cook.
hmm.
Yeah.
So
And that
sweet.
was mostly through just being there.
She makes a great tiramisu. I've been there. She does
You know,
some elaborate cake decorating. I'll just eat it. I won't copy her.
my older kids make her recipes
Mm.
at their house at Texas Tech in Lubbock. In fact, this last Sunday, we always talk to them on Sundays, and we chat with my in-laws too. We all do a FaceTime, and they said, "Oh, Mom, we made Grandma Debbie's cookies today," and they were eating them.
So they call her Grandma Debbie. That's a pretty close mentoring relationship.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
Well, she used to tell me about you because Debbie and I are peers and
yeah,
friends. And she goes, "Oh, Nikki, it was over." And she said too, what a offering you and your boyfriend at the time were to be around her kids because you were older role models for her kids. So that's kind of a double blessing when you're mentoring someone. Why do you think women are afraid to mentor?
I don't know. I mean, it definitely takes an extra step. You have to have someone else in your house. Like she was gracious enough to have me over and be in their space. After we were married, we still lived in San Luis Obispo for 3 years after we were married.
Mhm.
And they would have us over on Sunday nights for Sunday night dinner. And
Every
we'd watch Monk, I think almost every Sunday. Yeah. And we do our laundry there. And it cracked, you know her.
yeah.
She would crack up because she'd be like, "How do you do your laundry like that?" I'm like, "What? I just separated like just in two. I didn't do it by colors or anything. I'd just be like, dump, and she'd be like, "No, you guys separate colors." I was just a mess. I didn't know anything. I
Wow.
didn't know how to clean. I didn't know anything. And so she was very gracious to me in that. And she would just invite me into her world. And so yeah, that's what changed my life for sure,
And
is being around the table and with them.
and I know that your legacy is building into your kids. It's like a small crowd at mealtime. But have you been able to transfer any of these mentoring opportunities to other young women, perhaps who are in your situation?
I haven't yet. I mean, not in the exact same way as Debbie did for me. Um, I think I met her probably around the same age that I'm at now.
Oh,
I think she was in her early 40s and I'm mid 40s now. But one of the things that has been neat is there's been a little bit of a full circle moment with her daughter Rebecca. So her daughter Rebecca lived in Colorado for many years, and she would come down. She was just the sweetest thing. She'd be like, "I'm going to come visit," and she would come down to our house because she was only a 5 or 6 hour drive, and she'd spend holidays with us. And then when she got married, she and Greg would both come down too. And so we obviously, like for so many years, Debbie and Matt would kind of like love on us. And then we got to kind of turn that around on them and spend a lot of years like, trying to
mm,
spoil them as much as we could whenever they'd come and stay with us. So that's been a neat, uh, I don't know what you'd call that, a result of that. But I
yeah,
always look to give back in those ways if I can. Um, I definitely see that in wanting to mentor my own daughter as she grows. She's
right.
almost 50.
And your kids have watched you have other people in your home, like you said, that your guest room is behind you right now. If you're on YouTube, you
Yes.
can see her guest room, and you can see my guest room. I had to quickly put the towels on the floor so you wouldn't see them. We just had someone here, so I had
Yeah.
to quickly make the sheets up for
Yeah.
this podcast. But to have a guest room was my dream. So I was so grateful when my husband remodeled our house so that we could have this extra room for anyone. But it still takes a lot of work. Hospitality is a lot of work. Jill Briscoe said hospitality is work. It's a lot of work, but somebody's got to do it. And
Yeah.
it's a privilege. It's kind of like you leaning into investing in your children. We can lean into mentoring other women and opening our homes. It's a leaning into perspective rather than, oh brother, I have to change the sheets again.
Yeah.
So
Understood.
yeah, understood. Still hard. We still have to. I have to still rely on the grace of God. Um, can you share how God has used the difficulties in your life to bring fruit in the kingdom?
Mm, let's see. Well, I think that my life was really transformed, like I said, in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, through the love of other people and just taking time to um, help me see like what a healthy family looked like. Um, because I didn't grow up that way. I love my parents and want to respect them, but just really grew up in a pretty tumultuous home, not stable. And when I got to Cal Poly and met my husband, I knew that I had to take responsibility for myself. We were kind of talking about this before you started the podcast. And I knew that I needed to change, but those habits run deep and those sins are in our hearts and we have to learn to deal with them ourselves and not just blame others. And so I think that God really allowed me to be around great people. And I had a good husband who would often make me face my fears and talk about through my anxieties. We have this phrase that we say to each other, throw light on it. And that means get it out in the open so that it doesn't have power over you anymore. Because I had a lot of anxieties and a lot of fears, just not growing up with a lot of stability. And so I had to learn to work through that and to take my thoughts captive and to trust the Lord. Um, so as far as what that's done for the kingdom, I think for me, a lot of that I focused on what was right in front of me, my kids, and wanting to send out children that love the Lord and that have grown up in a stable home and see the love of their parents. And also, that if they can learn to obey us, then hopefully they can learn to obey the Lord. So I focused on that for a long time. And then now I think God has given me more grace to help, like to serve my community through the work that I do. So,
That made me think about, I found out very late in life that my mother did not have an ideal childhood. And one thing that she was missing, I interviewed my mom right before I did my very first hospitality workshop because I grew up with hospitality. And I thought, well, she's visiting. I'm just going to take advantage of this and just ask her a bunch of questions. Oh my gosh, it's a great story. And I won't get into the whole thing because that's part of my hospitality workshop. But what she said was, oh, my mother never did any hospitality. I go, what? Because her uh, father was a pastor and a pastor during the Depression, however. So they didn't always have enough food for themselves, family of six, much less a visiting person. So for whatever reason, she didn't badmouth her mother or anything. She just said, well, we never did it. And I was scared to death. And when she married my father, he was a deacon and she goes, your dad invited the whole deacon board over for pie and coffee. She said, here I am telling you the story. She goes, I knew how to make pie. I didn't know how to make coffee.
hilarious.
Opposite now.
Coffee's
People
a
just,
little bit easier than pie, but
yes.
anyway.
And now people just go to Costco or Trader Joe's. So,
Mhm.
but she said, I put the pieces of pie out and then I put the dollops of ice cream on each of the pieces of pie. And then I couldn't get the vacuum top thing off my um, coffee pot, the stovetop coffee pot for 30 minutes, she said. So of course the ice cream melted all over the pot. I said, Mom, she goes, I was mortified. I go, Mom, I am mortified just listening to the story. I go, why didn't you invite all the men in? They were probably all engineers like Dad, and they would just love figuring out this coffee pot. She goes, I would do it now. I would do it that way now. Because she still made mistakes as an older
Yeah.
adult,
Yeah.
but she didn't care. Because when we get part of our maturity is going, oops, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Well, and you
Yeah.
can tell you've grown up out of your insecurities when you go, oh, come on over, the house is a mess. Or
Yeah.
I don't really know how to make coffee. Or boy, the other day, not the other day, over Thanksgiving, one of the girls' boyfriends was visiting. He goes, Sue, this coffee is a little bit like tar. I thought, good, I've been making coffee for years, but somehow I made it a little tar-like. Oh, well,
Oh,
I'll try better next time. But the fact is, she wasn't raised with it. But guess what? We were. And so there was about that time I was reading a book by Philip Yancey, and he used this wonderful phrase, breaking the chain of ungrace. So what you have done, Nikki, is you have broken the chain of ungrace, whatever it was, we won't go into it, from your past of chaos or tumult. And you have broken that by the grace of God,
by the grace of
by
God.
his power. You said God transformed me. We give him all the credit, all
Mhm.
the glory, and yet we're still in partnership with him to make that happen where you go, okay, I'm going to put a light on this because I'm still tender about what if I make a mistake.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. That phrase is used a lot. Throw a light on it.
Yeah. And breaking the chain. Maybe someone listening today has a chain of ungrace on them that they don't even realize it. But
Yeah.
this put a light on that. And you say, Lord, I don't want to be the same way that maybe someone has treated me in my past at work or at home or at school. I don't want to turn around and treat that other person, someone in my home or at church, the same way. So please break this chain of ungrace and help me to give grace, like you were saying, even when someone's upset when you're doing real estate. I mean, there's almost anything worse than dealing with money with people. They don't, they get upset, they get hurt, and I understand that because I do too. So for you to give that grace because God has given you this grace.
Yes. And I think too, another thing we've really tried to press into our kids and also live is this mantra of turn a profit on what you've been given. And so we tell them, hey, like, my husband, his grandpa used to work in the oil fields and like totally barely make it, long, long days, 19-hour days on these oil rigs.
Wow.
His dad was the first one to go to college, my husband's dad. So my father-in-law, he went to Cal Poly
Wow.
and became a math teacher. His son was able to turn a profit and become a mathematician, PhD in mathematics. And now our sons, this one of our sons last weekend, no, the weekend before, 2 weeks ago, was just in Houston presenting to a bunch of oil and gas companies about their engineering project for mechanical engineering. You think that's turning a profit,
Turn.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, you've been given
Mhm.
to whom has been given much, we must turn a profit. And so that is one of the things too that we think about a lot. Like, okay, we've been given a lot. How do we
Mhm.
turn a profit for the Lord's glory, not for ours? We always tell our kids that, not for your glory, for God's glory. So turn a profit, not for your glory, for God's glory. How do we impact the kingdom? So you were asking me that earlier, and I was kind of saying, well, investing in my kids and stuff, but that is the mantra. And then we try to live that ourselves. Are we perfect at it? Absolutely not. So, yeah. But
Um, you say that you are interested in building a culture of fellowship around the table in your home and share it with the world. Was there anything else about that that you wanted to share?
yeah, so one of the things that we started doing when my oldest was 1 year old, so he's almost 20. So we've done it for just about 19 years, is we do a Sabbath dinner. We've modeled it after the Jewish tradition, but we are not Jewish. We don't claim to be or anything, but we just have modeled it after that because it's such a nice setup.
Yeah.
You have a challah bread. Who doesn't like challah bread? I learned how to make challah bread.
Wow.
Okay. And it's not that hard. And you make challah bread and you sit around the table. The husband says something nice about the wife. The wife says something nice about the husband. We read saw Proverbs 31 and Steve says something nice about me and then he reads about the kids. We read Proverbs 3 and he says something nice about the kids and then we end it with Proverbs or I can't even talk. Psalm 127, 128 and I say something nice about him. Like who doesn't like something nice said about them, right?
Is that on Friday nights like
This
that?
is we do it on Saturdays because we go to church on Sundays. We've done it as like a prep for church thing.
Mhm.
We have invited a lot of people to come over the years and just to be like, hey, come be a part of our weekly meal. You have to say something nice about your spouse and say
Yeah.
something nice about your kids. And they always laugh and go, oh, I can think of something. We always have chocolate on the plate, like
So
or
it's
something like that.
not dinner. It's not dinner.
It is, but we start with chocolate because it is the best dinner of the week. You want it to be the best dinner, like everyone to look forward to it. I used to make nice meals and my kids would cry and they'd be like, we don't want to eat this
Yeah.
because they were young, right? So then we're like, chuck that. We're
Yeah.
just doing cheese and salami and
Yeah.
halloumi. That's it. And chocolate.
Yeah.
And we do wine. You don't have to do wine, but we do wine. And we just have a little, like, tiny, tiny little taste. And of course, my husband and I have a little bit of wine. I'm not really a one that likes wine very much. But anyways, we do follow that. You don't have to do it. Sometimes people come over and they don't want to drink it, and we have grape juice for them or Martinelli's. It's very much a get to. But that practice, I think that has been one of the single most get to practices that we have instituted that has become such a staple. So much so that our older kids do it in Texas and they invite their fraternity brothers and they cook for it. It's crazy. I
So,
love seeing it. So
wow.
that's one of the ways that we talk about building fellowship around the table. It's a get to. Some weeks we don't get to do it. This week is prom. We're not doing it on Saturday. It's going to be too busy. And it's okay. We'll
I'm
be there
glad,
next
I'm
week.
glad you had time for me on a prom week. Well, we've been talking a lot about like, oh, I wanted to add something to that too. We have sibling reunions.
Yeah.
There's five of us, and so my brother set it up that when we get together every 2 years, my parents left some money, and so that money was put aside for the reunions, and
Oh, I
so
love that.
it pays for all the shipping and handling, and the food and the entertainment. So this year was in San Luis Obispo, so I took everybody to the melodrama, and my mom and dad paid for it, and they would have loved it. So it was a blast. But my brother set it up where every meal a different couple has a turn to share. And
Mm,
so they share what's been going on, where has God shown up in the previous 2 years that we haven't seen each other because we live in different states,
yeah.
and a prayer request, and then something that we appreciate about our spouse.
Mm,
And so I always tell my husband, well, we're gonna, be getting together in 5 months. You have 5 months to think of something nice about me. And so he has a whole, I'm so proud of me, he has a whole list on his phone now where he talks about each of the kids and he talks about me. I go, really? You think that? Wow, that's so great. So
yeah.
it's so wonderful to have these, and we do for birthday affirmations as well. But for you to do
Yeah.
it weekly, what a beautiful legacy. My next question was, what's your legacy? What do you think the main one is?
My family. I really do. And I don't mean that in like an idol type way. I just see it as like what God has given, and I want to honor him with that. We've been given a lot of little people, and sometimes we look at each other with our youngest and we're like, we're so tired. We're so old now. And we used to joke that, like, we'd be young grandparents because we started having kids when we were young,
Yeah.
right? And then we had him, and we're like, no, no, we're gonna be old grandparents too now.
Oh,
So,
oh,
anyways, I know you joke and you say, yeah, right, but that's just kind of our joke. So, anyways, but I do see it as that, and um I think that God has really given a lot of grace to teach me how to love them and honor him with what I've been given. Again, and then we tell our kids and go surpass us, go do better than us. That is our prayer, like not success wise, but just loving the Lord, serving the Lord, being whatever God asks you to do, like do it with all your heart and surpass us, you know, turn a profit. So that's what I see as my legacy. I definitely like now that I have a full-time career that I do really enjoy. I keep it in balance, like I said, with my family. But I see that also as a way for me to leave an impact too, are the people that I work with. But I see that as secondary to my work within my home.
have there been any particular obstacles or challenges to overcome to work towards making your family your legacy?
Yeah. A lot of hard work, especially in my younger years. I remember Debbi and I read through several books. We went through several Bible studies, back when I had time to sit and go do a Bible study like that, like in that same way. Um, and contemplate, I could just sit and contemplate for a while.
All
Um,
separating laundry.
yes, yeah. Uh, that we went like loving God with all your mind, I know was one. Some other studies we did a lot about taking our thoughts captive, learning to, I am very quick to anger. I think that is very steeped within me is like that response instead of like a deal with your emotions and feel the sadness. It's just an anger, I'll fight you. And so, um, pointing that in a good direction that honors the Lord rather than like that quick to anger. So something Debbi got my kids was this box, and there's a way it's like a memory verse type system, and it actually is the only thing I've ever tried with them that actually works really well. And there's a verse in there that we say. It's kind of, I don't know how to describe it on to you in a quick way. It basically just has like daily, weekly, and then you can also do like one for every day of the month. So you kind of like build up and learn them. But not do not be quick in your spirit to become angry. For anger resides in the bosom of fools, and I can't remember the reference, but that's one of our verses, and I say that to myself all the time.
Yeah, we have to speak truth to ourselves.
Yeah, so it's been a continual process for sure, but there's a lot of things in my heart that God has had to absolutely root out, and He will be doing that for still many years to come.
How does your life embody God's welcoming heart?
How does my life embody God's welcoming heart? What do you mean by that? Like in things that I do and how I serve? Like what do you mean by that?
Well, some people take it as a matter of an attitude, like whoever you meet, you welcome them into knowing God,
Hmm.
because God has welcomed us first. Other people look at it as hospitality. I look at it as a cross of both.
You were talking about that at your when you were at the church the retreat or the women's retreat that day,
I
and
was.
how you just talk to all sorts of people. I mean, I really do deal with a lot of different types of people in the public. And I have to be really careful not to, um, I don't know, I just being in the position that I'm in, I'm very like, just, how do I say it? I can't like I can be myself, but I also have to be very careful like about,
Presenting like,
how I,
right,
yeah, influence people because that's just not part of my job, right?
right,
But I think the way that I see it as I like to care for people in a way that makes a lasting impression on them that if they were to know me outside of real estate, they might ask why. And so, and actually a lot of my clients do become friends and people that I hang out with afterwards that you'd think, okay, I may not have met you or been connected with you in this way. And it's an opportunity for me to shine bright
right.
Christ to
Yeah,
them.
I thought of that this morning as well. My mission, your mission field is real estate. My mission field is the YMCA, my
Yeah.
cardio class.
Yeah. And you're so good at that,
Well,
you
I'm
know?
terrible at cardio, but I like last time I was thinking, I don't think I'm going to go tomorrow. Oh yeah, it's my mission field. And because I was exhausted from speaking over the weekend, and I was felt fine this morning. And I thought, okay, Lord, who do you want me to talk to today? Because it's almost like weekly. There's somebody else. Oh, what's your name? Or we get, and then they start talking to me afterwards. But there's a couple that we've met with outside of class. So it's kind of like what you do with your real estate. They are led to, oh, I want to hang out with Nikki or I want to hang out with Sue. And then you get to the crux of what's going on in their lives. And so today I actually passed out 3 invitations to come to church, which I rarely do, but because it's Easter coming up when this is recorded, our church provided really nice, um, whatever the word is, where they're all shiny. It's a cardboard invitation. Can't remember what the word is. Anyway, and I said, hey, I'm going to give you this invitation to church. I've talked to her in the past. She grew up Catholic, no longer goes to church. So I wasn't trying to proselytize and take her away from whatever she would be doing. But I said, would you like to come for brunch after church, or would you just like to come to church? Or would you like to come to both? No pressure. And I
Yeah.
said, and what about your friend? Because I've had her over once. She might feel the pressure. So I'm going to give you the invitation for her. So I made her give the invitation to her. And then another lady who I know she goes to church, not mine, but I see her alone and I think, I wonder if she doesn't have any family. So out in the parking lot, there she was. I go, hey, are you doing something special for your Easter? And she goes, I don't know. Just like that. She's
Mm.
like 75, which is not that much older than me. But I just, because I'd seen her at a play in town by herself. And
Oh, yeah.
that breaks my heart. So I just gave the, I said, you go to your own church if you want to, but you can come to mine. And would you like to come for brunch? And if so, would you bring strawberries?
Would you bring strawberries? Yeah. That's people need something to do.
They
Like
need
they need,
something to
yes.
do.
Yes. And you are so good at that. You know what's funny is that for Easter, we're going to Lubbock to spend time with our oldest
Boys,
boys. And we're going to do Easter there. And they said, yeah, Mom. And we've invited the fraternity, whoever's staying, is staying in Lubbock. We're like, okay,
all
all
right.
right. Well,
That's
we'll have lots of food. I'm
that's
like, and
awesome.
they said, don't worry, we'll assign people to bring stuff. That's what made me think of it. And I said, okay, good. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
I've invited college kids before, and to bring I think it was a green bean casserole. So they Googled it. And
Oh, I love it.
they
Yes.
came with an 8 by 8. And I thought, we have 45 people here. And next time I'm a little more specific. Make it for a crowd, please. Anyway, okay. Well, this has been delightful, Nikki. Thank you for your time. I know you're busy, busy girl, and you've been such a blessing. God bless you in your legacy building.
Thank you.